Let me start by welcoming, of course, our editor, Danielle Cantini. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. And also our contributors and our discussant, Dr. Huda Sadda. I'm also accompanied by my colleagues from AEC Press, Nadia Naqib, our senior commissioning editor, and Eric Wassman, our senior web editor. We're going to start, I think, one more minute. We so far have around 19 attendees on the webinar, and the number is increasing, so it's good to wait. Okay, Nadia, I think we should start.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's panel discussion of Bounded Knowledge, Doctoral Studies in Egypt, edited by Daniele Cantini. This is a potentially vast subject, one which is relatively understudied. So we're grateful to Daniele and each of the volume contributors for this inquiry into the conditions under which PhD research in the social sciences and humanities is carried out in Egypt's public universities. The chapters in this book explore the environment in which research is conducted and the incentives and resources provided for such work. Since PhD research is where knowledge is ostensibly produced and future scholars are trained, it necessarily has a bearing on the country's academic and intellectual life. I'd just like to add that the first time I discussed this book project with Daniele was some time ago in Beirut. It's been a real pleasure working with you, Daniele, and I'm thrilled that Bounded Knowledge is finally off press. And now I'll just briefly introduce our esteemed panelists. Daniele Cantini is a social anthropologist based at the University of Halle in Germany, where he also serves as coordinator of the Graduate School Society and Culture in Motion. He is the author of Youth and Education in the Middle East, Shaping Identity and Politics in Jordan. Ala Kobbara obtained her PhD in 2019 from the Faculty of Economics and Political Science at Cairo University. Her research interests include democratization, educational development, and scientific management. Ahmed Mansour obtained his PhD in Egyptology from the University of Alexandria. He is currently researching the history of printing and writing in Egypt. David Mills is Associate Professor in Pedagogy and the Social Sciences at the Department of Education at Oxford University and Deputy Director of the Oxford Centre for Global Higher Education. His published monographs include Ethnography in Education and Difficult Folk, A Political History of Social Anthropology. Hala Kamal is Associate Professor of Gender Studies at the Department of English and the Faculty of Arts at Cairo University and co-founder of the Women in Memory Forum. She is co-editor of the Routledge Handbook of Translation, Feminism, and Gender. And our discussant tonight is Huda Al-Sadda. Huda Al-Sadda is Professor of English and Comparative Literature at Cairo University. She is co-founder and currently chair of the board of the Women in Memory Forum. Her research interests are in the areas of gender studies, comparative literature, and oral narratives. She is the author of Gender, Nation, and the Arabic Novel, Egypt, 1892-2008. And of course, we're all very sad that Muna Abaza isn't with us for tonight's discussion. I had the pleasure of working with Muna on her book, Cotton Plantation Remembered. It was an enriching experience and a delightful one. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that I will miss her sharp intellect and insight and her wonderful sense of the absurd. So before I turn the mic over to Daniele, I just want to mention that our event tonight will last for about an hour. Each panelist will speak for 5 minutes, and then our discussant will speak for 10 minutes. And then we will open the floor for a kind of 20-minute Q&A. So please feel free during the discussion to type any questions in the Q&A function below. And so I just now turn it over to Daniele to talk about this fascinating new book.
Thanks, Nadia, for this lovely introduction and also for your remembering Mona Abaza. I would like to say also a couple of words that she wasn't really associated with the project, and I contacted her toward the end of the publication to seek her, to look after to ask for her if she could write an afterword. And in her spirit of true scholarly engagement and cooperation, she gladly did that, and she was also a great supporter in the publication process. So I was truly great to have her on board, and it's in this spirit that I also thank you all for being here tonight and for taking the time of sharing in what I hope will be an enriching discussion. And so Egypt is, of course, one of the most researched countries in the region. And education is a central theme, both in scholarship in and on Egypt and from the country. Yet there are quite few studies on education per se, even less on higher education, and almost none on doctoral studies. So that was one of the reasons why 10 years ago I started thinking that something should be done in this direction. Second, we all know that discussions of knowledge economy and the role that knowledge should play in further developing societies across the globe is becoming prominent. Of course, social science and humanities, the focus of this book, have a rather marginal role, if at all, in this endeavor. But still, universities are a central, prominent space in our contemporary societies, both as an organization and as an institution, both for policies and for people. And Egypt is no exception. Across the globe, the PhD is increasingly being defined as the moment in which young researchers acquire their independence or establish themselves within different fields of studies. And a liminal space, well, obviously, but a space in which that leads to a transformation, yeah, and to a belonging within the scholarly community. So these were the ideas that guided me in starting the project. And of course, inequalities in the distribution of knowledge production are well known. And this was something that was known before the project started. The point is not to look at what is missing in a particular context or what is not up to the global standards, but it's rather to address the condition of inequality in a collaborative and reflexive way. Lastly, for the introduction, it was also important for me to look for a research theme that would not point to an exceptionality of the country, yeah? To look at something that is present in all societies and with the goal of studying similarities and differences, which is what I understand to be one of the major goals of social anthropology, the discipline I belong to. So in short, this book is largely the outcome of a project I led between 2013 and 2016 on the conditions and modalities of knowledge production at the doctoral level at Egyptian public universities. And as I briefly mentioned this already, the research was open-ended, was collaborative and reflexive, meaning, and Ola and Ahmad will probably say more about this, but the research team was composed by Egyptian PhD students enrolled at Egyptian public universities, and the research themes were not fixed in advance. And so I'm already running out of time, but I just hope that this makes clear that this study is not an evaluation of doctoral studies in Egypt. It is a reflexive analysis on the conditions and possibilities, and of course also constraints that contribute to shape which topics make it into the academia, and how young researchers are formed. By way of conclusion, let me point to some of the results of this study. First of all, there is a discourse of crisis, which is very much present. And this is, however, going hand in hand with the growth of the system, which is sometimes used as an explanation for this very crisis, and yet points also to the fact that the sector of higher education and of knowledge production is of increasing importance. Egypt, as before, as 100 years ago, is still a place from which researchers migrate, yeah, to seek postgraduate educations abroad. At the same time, it is also a pole of attraction, particularly at the regional level, and also for postgraduate studies. The importance of the PhD, in contrast to what I said before, is in Egypt largely downplayed. Official documents, for example, CAPMAS, do not differentiate between master and PhD thesis. They are all postgraduate. And the particular structure of the academic staff makes the PhD not the decisive moment for entering the academic profession, thereby taking away some of its importance. Yet, even if universities are, and some chapters address this, are not necessarily the place where most research takes place, they are the places in which most researchers do get their training and their formation. And I would like just to conclude by saying that one of the researchers who couldn't be with us analyzed, for example, in this sense, the lack of production on gender at the Faculty of Sociology at Cairo University. But now I leave the word to Ola, and I'm very glad that we're meeting here today.
Thank you, Daniele. Thank you for this introduction. Well, my study is about the attempts of internationalization of higher education at public universities. And my case study was at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science at Cairo University, especially the Euro-Mediterranean Studies program that was launched in 2002 as a partnership program between European institutions and the Ministry of Higher Education. As a PhD candidate myself back then in 2014, I was able to practice observational participation, do the study, as well as really get into the dynamics and challenges that has faced the institution during this attempt at internationalization. It is also very important to know that internationalization of education is a very complex process. As such, it cannot be done easily or inexpensively. Yet, in the beginning of the program, a lot of success has been done. First of all, there was a lot of funding because it was coming from European institutions, not from the Egyptian government. So there were a lot of visiting professors coming, there's exchange of students, there was abundance of materials, libraries, there were seminars that been conducted, workshops. However, later on, a lot of challenges were facing this program that has led to the decrease of the quality of education provided, the quality of professors provided, which led also to a certain period of time where this PhD program has stalled. I was able to conduct a lot of qualitative research. Vast interviews has been done with PhD candidates, master candidates, also deans, former visiting professors, ministries, ministerial administrators at the Ministry of Higher Education, as well as administrators that have been really, since the launch of the Euro-Mediterranean Studies program, been doing their best at these attempts of educational reform. However, unfortunately, there has been a lot of resistances and a lot of dynamics inside the institution that has really harmed the progress of this channel of internationalization. And one of the main hurdles was the funding. The second was the resistances. The third one was the lack of training for the professors that have been prepared for such a program. So as such, comparing it, I've done also comparative analysis between the Euro-Mediterranean program and the Arabic section back then. And unfortunately, it has not really met the aspirations of the students or of the candidates. Okay, there were elements that have been successful, such as the English language. The program was done in the English language, which is the international language of education. There has been visiting professors in the beginning that have been coming. However, by time, the quality of education has decreased and the program has been very comparable to that of the Arabic section. So the study actually is an eye-opener that internationalization of higher education in Egypt is possible. There just has to be certain elements there and a certain group of people of experts that really look to the issue and are dedicated 100% to developing such a program at a public university such as Cairo University. Thank you, and I would pass on to Ahmed Mansour.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you, Daniele. Thank you, all of all. Actually, it's my honor to be present in this important occasion. Actually, it was a dream for me since 2014 when I started in this project. Actually, it was difficult for me at the beginning because I came from different background. I come from humanities. And thanks to Daniel, who helped me a lot to shift my mindset to read about sociology and to adapt myself to this study. So it took me a double effort to be involved in the project. So, and also thanks to Daniel, who helped me a lot to develop the study and the article that I wrote about the heritage-related studies. So my chapter is about heritage-related knowledge in the Alexandria University. Indeed, when I started investigating this topic, I didn't realize what is the conclusion would be at the end. But it was a surprise for me when I found there is no unified term for heritage in the Arabic language. I mean, so heritage in Arabic means turath, and turath means many different, or it has synonyms in English. It could be folklore, it could be the Sharia, it could be archaeology, and it could be also the good memories of a city. So it is related to heritage. And my project or my investigation started inside the libraries. So I went myself to the libraries in Alexandria University and started to make a list of all related thesis about heritage. And I found 4 faculties that are mainly dealing with the term heritage: the Faculty of Engineering, the Faculty of Fine Arts, the Faculty of Arts, and the Faculty of Tours and Hotels. So I'm graduated from the Faculty of Tourism and Hotels, Department of Guiding, Touristic Guiding. So the first faculty to deal with the term heritage, it was the Faculty of Engineering, and it dealt with the word heritage from the point of view of restoration or conservation or preservation of the heritage. And it means archaeological heritage. Then when I moved to the Faculty of Arts, I found it deals with the term as it is. It speaks on folklore and traditions and the customs of the Egyptian society. And it was a surprise for me. They are dealing with heritage from this point of view. Then I went to the Faculty of Tourism and found it is more related to tourism. And then when we are speaking about heritage in Alexandria, we have two narratives. People are speaking about Alexandria, the cosmopolitan city, and also the modern city, which is a little bit changed into more religious city related to the modern groups or modern religious groups that are surviving now in Alexandria. So what I would like to say, there's a conflict about the term heritage in the knowledge production in higher education. And this I found in the city that I investigated. Of course, I investigated, I did many interviews with academia, with administrators, and with PhD candidates. And I tried to get some information about the material condition of PhD student at the university. What is the status of funding, for example? What is the status of the libraries and availability of references? And is there any help? What is the difference, for example, between a PhD thesis and a master thesis? So I made some interviews and I got the result that you will read here in this chapter. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm next. So I will begin by saying congratulations to everyone. This is a really wonderful book, and especially congratulations to Danielle for bringing everyone together as a collaborative team, supporting and mentoring. I think you've created a wonderful book, and my involvement with this came about partly through my interest in the sort of colonial entanglements of the PhD, and I learned an awful lot as I began to read about the history of Egyptian PhD training, that actually, whilst you could see a sort of core periphery thing happening when the PhD was first introduced into Britain with its relationship to its empire of scholars, Egypt very early on too was a site of research and a core for the region in terms of producing scholarship. So I wrote about the history and these interlinked histories of the PhD training in my chapter. But really I want to say something about the book as a whole, because I think the book's strength is that it offers a sort of a grounded ethnographic empirical investigation of the actual day-to-day conditions of working for a doctorate in Egyptian universities. And of course it shows the importance of going beyond the metrics and the proxies and the numbers, because of course, if you just look at those, you think Egypt's one of the top African countries for science and knowledge, beating South Africa. But then there's also this discourse of crisis that the book is absolutely capturing as well. That's partly about the relationship of social sciences to as the sort of the poor relation of the science, and in terms of the commitment to a sort of technological modernity. But I think that's what this book does, is really understand far beyond the numbers what that actually means for people who are employed, studying for PhDs, and why it's so hard to perform within the social sciences in this context. And I think it's really hard for all of us with PhDs to get beyond our own normative commitment to the PhD and our vision of what it is, and to see that actually it is both a knowledge production. We are a process. We have been through that process. It is also an accreditation, a legitimation. And so we have to separate those things out and see, okay, what does it mean to use the doctorate as a means both to study the changing forms of global higher education and to detach ourselves from our own expectations around what it ought to mean, okay? So it doesn't always mean creating new knowledge. It doesn't always mean a commitment to scholarship. It might mean, as some of the interviewees in Ola's Kabara's chapter talk, it's just a way of keeping a job or getting promotion. And certainly I've been doing some research in African universities where you've got no choice, you've got to get a PhD, because otherwise you can't hang on to your post. And so that does, that does sort of demystify the PhD, but it does also make it an important site. And that's exactly what this book is good at. And of course, as the more people do PhDs, the form changes, as the book also documents. There's a lot of shifts to more sort of training, to more sort of programmatic approaches to the PhD. And I think that's fine as well. I think, you know, the degrees evolve and universities evolve. And I like Danielle's point that we're not trying to single out an Egyptian exceptionalism here, but we're trying to say, well, look, you can learn a great deal by just paying attention to how universities take seriously or just address the role of the PhD. So we have here a local consideration of what a doctorate is, what appropriate research is. And I think all the chapters help us anticipate and think through what that might mean going forward as more and more people aspire to do PhDs, and what happens then to that knowledge. And I guess my final comment here is that, you know, despite all the many reasons people might do PhDs, what really matters also is where the knowledge gets published and how it gets read and made use of. And that almost is the most important thing of all. Can we ensure that the knowledge is able to circulate, that the conditions, the political economy of publishing allow these new voices, these new scholars to be able to share their knowledge and contribute to the sort of global good of higher education. And so with that, I will stop and hand over to Halak Kamal. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to, first of all, I would like to thank you, Daniela, for the great work you've done with this book. And I think we're all very pleased with it. And the value, I think, will also appear gradually. We should not count on, the fact that how many people have read it or so on, because I think it is an incredibly important source, as said before, in terms of the anthropological work done in it, in addition to all the theorizing, conceptualization that is there in the project itself. My chapter in this book is not actually, it's slightly different in the sense that the focus is not about what is being done within academia, but I show the role of the civil society organizations in producing knowledge for young academics. The title of my chapter is Collectivism, Feminist Translation as Knowledge Production for Social Change. And the work is done at the intersection of feminist scholarship, activism, knowledge production. And as I said already, that in the Egyptian context in particular, we know that when it comes to knowledge around feminism and gender, the production of knowledge definitely in the past 30 years since the 90s can be attributed mainly to civil society organizations who have also in the past decade or so tried to, let's say, introduce gender studies in academia. So basically, my chapter focuses on a particular case, which is the case study represented by the Women in Memory Forum. And it is a feminist organization in Egypt, a research center founded and mainly run by a group of feminist scholars. Most of them are affiliated to Egyptian universities, Cairo University mainly, and the American University in Cairo, in addition to a group of feminist activists. So the notion of scholarship combines, of course, obviously, the two terms, scholarship and activism. And it was introduced by environmentalist activists and scholars, basically. And I adopted this term to look at the case of feminist scholars. So I'm quoting here the definition that I use in the chapter. Scholaractivism is an approach adopted by scholars and academics directly involved in producing and disseminating knowledge to serve their immediate communities and societies. Similarly, I define feminist scholaractivism as the engagement of feminist scholars across the disciplines in raising gender and feminist consciousness towards women's empowerment and social change. Now, as mentioned already, that the most prominent efforts of mainstreaming gender in academia in Egypt were done through the civil society, a narrative that is slightly different from, for instance, the example that I look at also in the chapter, the introduction of women's studies programs in American academia, which is also an interesting example where those women caucuses within feminist organizations started introducing feminism into feminist thought, feminist methods into academia, and both fed each other. However, in the Egyptian setting, the situation is slightly different. And again, I go back to history. And our Egyptian history tells us a very brief section about the women's section at the Egyptian University in the period from 1909 to 1912, where Egyptian feminists tried to integrate feminist thought within academic and intellectual spheres by urging Cairo University, which was then the Egyptian University, management to establish or create a room for women to receive a kind of a semi-scholarly education. The contemporary scene is much more complex in Egypt. As an example, I refer to the Women in Memory Forum, which includes, as I said, a group of feminists and academics. And the clear example is the feminist translation series, Targamet Nisweya, that included 6 volumes of translated work with the idea of providing knowledge produced in that case, in the Anglo-American world, on feminism and gender to Egyptian master and particularly PhD scholars in Egyptian universities, young scholars who do not have this access to this kind of knowledge because of their lack of specialized knowledge of the English language. So in that sense, we also look at Women in Memory as a feminist translation project as a process of knowledge production. It is not just merely a process of translation, but it is production of knowledge through translation, sparing up interaction, examination, critique, and enabling scholars as well as activists to have access to the knowledge produced around feminism and gender. And just very briefly, the 6 volumes that have been published, translated and published under this project are about gender and political science, feminism, religious studies, feminism and history, gender and psychoanalysis, actually women and psychoanalysis, feminist literary criticism, gender and the social sciences, and finally, feminism and sexuality. To us, this series empowers young scholars by giving them access to the knowledge produced in the Anglo-American world on the one hand, but it also empowers young activists, enabling them to develop a feminist praxis. That is to say, their feminist praxis that is informed by feminist theory. I would like to conclude, so as not to go beyond the 5 minutes, with a statement that I also include at the end of the chapter, highlighting that feminist scholars attempt to introduce change in Egypt by creating a space of their own that crosses academic boundaries, extending into the society, seeking social change in general, and women's empowerment in particular, both in academia and in the civil society. Thank you very much. Adda, who will be presenting a commentary on the book. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you. So it's my turn now to go. Right. So hello, everyone. And I begin by saying that I'm really happy to be given this opportunity to discuss an important book and to engage with colleagues. And I would like to congratulate Daniele and the authors of the chapters for producing a really good contribution to research on higher education in Egypt. And also thank them for addressing some really key issues. They've raised really very important issues relevant to the politics of knowledge production. Now, the book encourages us to rethink some of the assumptions and dominant discourses about higher education in Egypt. And Diane has mentioned already the discourse of crisis, for example, in the introduction, and the discourse of the deficit in knowledge production in Egypt. So what we have here is a more nuanced understanding of knowledge production in Egypt and an attempt to raise new questions and revise dominant assumptions. My remarks are divided into 4 points, really. So the first 2 points are about why I think this new perspective has been enabled, or at least we're able to look at higher education from a different lens. One, I think, is the focus on material realities through the use of qualitative data. Already mentioned, it's like an ethnographic study in lieu of quantitative data. It complements quantitative data, but really focuses on conditions under which research is conducted. We have 3 case studies that include interviews with academics and students and attention to the context, to the political environment that enables or disables research and mentorship of students. Now, the chapter by Ola Kubara, for example, is really an important intervention in the discussion of the quality of training made available to PhD students and how it is negatively impacted by the fact, for example, that supervisors may be busy making a living to supplement their salaries, or in some situations due to the absence of basic resources that enable better communication and interaction with students, resources obviously that should have been provided by university administrators. The second important dimension of the book that allows for this reappraisal of higher education is the attention paid to the historical development of specific conditions or policies. I believe history is super important. So for example, again, Danielle's chapter on the political history of doctoral studies in Egypt is also a history of the challenges to university governance, the interventionist policies of ruling elite at different historical moments, and it provides a glimpse of the beginnings of struggles over the issue of academic freedom, for example. So the case of Mansour Fahmi referred to by Danielle tells us that struggles over academic freedom began as early as 1913, and they have continued, through decades. Now, the historical overview provides crucial contextual information, but in addition, the overviews serve to problematize the discourse of crisis or blanket assumptions about the deficit in knowledge production as a permanent or uninterrupted condition of higher education in Egypt. It tells us that conditions enabling knowledge production change, that there are moments of extreme limitations, but also moments of relative openness and enablement, that many academics have succeeded in creating centers of excellence despite obstacles, and that there have been important movements of resistance. So it's a complex story full of challenges, but also opportunities. Now, I have 2 themes that I would like to engage with and that are raised and are really important in this book. Now, the first theme is the internationalization of higher education, which I suggest needs to be discussed in tandem with the question of decolonization of knowledge production as a prerequisite for addressing global inequalities. Internationalization of higher education is tackled by Ola Kubara again in her chapter on the Euromed program at the Faculty of Economics and Political Science. Internationalization of higher education in Egypt goes hand in hand with the whole move towards privatization of university education, the rapid increase in the number of private universities in the last 2 decades, the establishment of fee-paying programs inside public universities, and the establishment of exchange programs with universities, mostly in the north. Now, the chapter raises really important questions about the role played by these new programs. Did they provide a better experience to students, better training? Did they result in enabling knowledge production with international standards? We've heard Ola talk about the problems facing the program, the Euromed program. And so did they deliver on the promise? And, but of course, but to what extent, or have they deepened inequality in education? Now, to my knowledge, and again, citing Mushira Gezeri, who talked about this, there are no studies to date that evaluate the impact of these new programs in improving higher education training and research. Now, the other side of internationalization concerns the acceleration of academic mobility, more scientific exchanges, in addition to the inclusion of the Arab academic community in the global system of knowledge production. Now, this involves, amongst other things, systems of publishing in international journals. Of course, international here basically means Western and in English. Citation practices where publishing becomes contingent on citation of international theorists and scholars, again, read Western. University administrators' obsession with league tables and rankings, and so on. All our universities in Egypt, most of the Arab world, are structured, all of the Arab world practically, are structured according to a Western model. And I'm quoting here Mbaby, and he talks about how knowledge production in Africa, in the Arab world, conforms to the dominant academic model, which is a Eurocentric epistemic canon, meaning that it attributes truth only to the Western way of knowledge production and disregards other epistemic traditions. Now, there's a growing movement of for the decolonization of knowledge production amongst Arab scholars, amongst Arab scholars and scholars in the South. It is not new, but is definitely gaining momentum as a prerequisite for countering global systems of inequality. Now, the question, of course, here is, to what extent does the current trend towards internationalization further the dominance of epistemic coloniality? And can internationalization be redefined to join the movement towards the decolonization of knowledge production? It's a general question. My second point, and my last point, is the role of NGOs as key sites of knowledge production. So already there are 2 chapters in this book, which is really important, that talk about the role of civil society, the chapter by Nafisa Dessouky and Hala Kamal, who just talked about her experience at Women in Memory. Now, so they talk about the production of knowledge in the area of women and gender studies as a discipline that has developed inside and outside universities. Both subvert the value-laden binary opposition between academic research and activist research. Hala just used the terms collectivism to describe specialized scholarship that has an activist function. Now, it's not a coincidence that the 2 examples that tackle the interconnection between sites of knowledge production are about women's studies. Again, history is important, and Hala has already referred to this. And I have also argued elsewhere that women and gender studies in the Arab world in general is an NGO phenomenon. It developed and was nurtured by feminist activists in the Arab world who founded independent women's organizations in the 80s and 90s, long before the advent of women's studies programs inside Arab universities. I mean, the Gender and Development MA at FEPS was actually established in 2017. I hasten to say here that this state of affairs is not a feature of Arab exceptionalism. If we look at Spain, where we find that women and gender studies, again, started later than other Western European countries, it is strongest outside the academy because of its alliance with, I'm quoting actually, with groups, because of its alliance with groups who resisted the Franco regime. Higher education institutions in countries that experience authoritarian rule in the second half of the 20th century in general share similar yet distinct trajectories in the response to and acceptance of new emerging fields of knowledge. So to quote Daniele in the introduction, he actually says actual knowledge production at public universities is not as dynamic as the one produced outside academia. It's an observation that requires serious reflection and further research. It's also a question of how we evaluate, assess, or narrate the story of the politics of knowledge production in Egypt. Now, I need to come to my conclusion, but there are several questions that we need to think about here. Do we need to reconsider assumptions about universities as primary sites of knowledge production now, at this historical moment, especially in the social sciences and the humanities? How does the fact that many academics were able to implement critical research agendas outside university walls impact the discourse on the deficit in knowledge production in the Arab world, and so on? Now, I think I stop here. And again, I congratulate Daniele and all the authors for a very important contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for this fascinating discussion. I think now I can probably open the floor for questions from our audience. Start with. There is a question for Dr. Mills. In relation to the comparison between Egypt and South Africa, do you still think Egypt has an edge compared with Africa in studying indigenous modes of knowledge?
Thank you, Gosh. That's an interesting question. So I was using a sort of a very simplified metric, which was sort of trying to rank Egypt within a sort of African hierarchy of knowledge production. I was sort of using it to question those rankings, those metrics. As Huda al-Sada said, you know, there's a real problem with the dominance of a metricized ranking economy that structures the world into hierarchies of who's producing the most knowledge. My worry is whether it's Egypt or whether it's South Africa, it's about the knowledge that get lost. It's about the knowledges that aren't able to get into the cited journals. And if you're publishing in a journal that might well be a really important scholarly space, but that it somehow hasn't been able to jump through the hoops of getting into a global database or a citation index like Scopus or Web of Science, then suddenly your knowledge is not seen as valuable and people don't want to publish there. And so all these points we're raising around the broader sort of research economy and how that affects what's happening within and across Africa mean that I guess I'm less interested in that question of, you know, it seems to me that both South Africa and Egypt have really strong local knowledge ecosystems, and it's about how those are treated and when and how that knowledge circulates. And I think, you know, as the contributors have shown, it's about looking beyond the universities as well, and that links to a post-colonial critique, which is an important one, which is, you know, the Dos Santos critique of, well, you know, the pluriversity needs to look beyond the university to think about other forms of knowledge. So sorry, I'm not giving a straight answer there, but I think it's a good question.
Thank you, David. Next question is for Dr. Mansour. Could you elaborate further on the pool of dissertations you examined? Could you also further detail the reasons you're surprised by the Faculty of Arts production?
Okay, thank you very much for these important questions. Actually, it will take a long time to answer, but actually I'm going to summarize. So the pool of dissertation, of course, I went through the doctor PhD dissertation, the also master dissertation first. I went myself to different departments in different faculties and started to investigate the list of dissertation, and then I started to select the titles of each dissertation. Then I went through each one in order to be sure if it cope within the scope of this project or not. So when I started to investigate, I decided to investigate the 4 faculties that I mentioned in engineering, Faculty of Arts, Fine Arts, and Tourism. And could you further detail the reasons that are surprised by the Faculty of Arts production? Actually, as I said in my introduction, there is no unified term for heritage, and this was a surprise for me. Actually, if you use the UNESCO definition of heritage, the heritage-related dissertation, the Alexandria universities can be defined in tangible heritage or intangible heritage. And the surprise was that most of the dissertation focused on the tangible heritage. And then when I started to investigate the dissertation of Faculty of Arts, I found that heritage-related dissertation were found in anthropology department, not, for example, in the archaeology department, for example, in this faculty. So they are dealing with heritage from anthropology point of view. And also, although the Department of Anthropology was was founded in 1994 in the Faculty of Arts. Actually, we had to wait till 2000 to have the first dissertation to be discussed in these departments. So it was shocking for me, to surprise for me to find no much dissertation, no many dissertation discussed about heritage in the Faculty of Arts. So this is briefly about my answer.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. Next question, slightly longer question. I want to pick up Hudal Sada's intervention on how internationalization could be leading to epistemic hierarchies and coloniality. Wondering, what does this mean for feminist academics creating knowledge in these quote unquote internationalized academic spaces, especially when feminists are already being accused of being outsiders or westernized? In other words, how are feminist academics in Egypt maneuvering this reconfigured academic space, a push to engage with Western academia without being accused of being westernized?
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, perhaps I can respond to two questions at the same time, because the next question is also about, if I just read it, when talking about the decolonizing of epistemology. Is it okay? Shall I just read the, in universities, there's also a push of looking at these efforts outside of Western colonialism. What about efforts in the Arab and Islamic worlds? For example, Nubian people, Bedouin people who are reclaiming other indigenous languages and cultures. I mean, the question of the decolonization of knowledge is something that this is something that we really need to talk about. But I'll just mention very basic. I'll just mention some of the discussions that are happening amongst feminist scholars in the region. For example, just to give you a very, a very simple example. Actually, we talk about citation practices and how we deliberately and consciously cite and refer to knowledge produced in Arabic, for example, or making sure that we're not necessarily always citing. There's this feeling that if you need to publish, in an English journal, obviously, and it's a highly ranked English journal, you have to be citing all the famous theorists who are probably writing in English. But there's a move now to cite, to focus on the practices of citation or the politics of citation, and to cite scholars from the region, scholars from the South. So these are the kinds of discussions that are going on. Obviously, there are so many things that need to be done. Publishing in Arabic, for example, by feminist scholars in the region is already a step towards decolonizing knowledge production. We all belong to universities that actually want all the academics to publish in English so that they can get the rankings and so on. But actually publishing in Arabic is also important, and so on. So the discussion of how do we actually engage with this idea of decolonizing knowledge production can be applied on many, many different levels. These are just two very basic examples, and there are other. Yeah, I'll stop here.
The next question, pursuing Hudal Sada's question, what becomes of the university as a hegemonic site of knowledge production, particularly given the larger political economic context that is moving towards increasing private universities and confining civil society? What possibilities for the current moment, particularly if we link this to decolonization processes?
Yes, absolutely. It's, this is really the question I'm trying to pose, Hanan, my friend. I can't answer it here. I don't know. I don't have an easy answer to this. We are all moving towards internationalization. We are all actually going ahead with furthering inequalities, global inequalities in knowledge production, in education. And I think, yes, this is something that needs to be discussed. I have no answer, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, if I may jump in on this, at the opening, the introduction, I have put a quote from Mahmoud Mamdani that speaks about the necessity of training the next generation of African scientists at home. And this, of course, points to this whole discussion about the the need of decolonizing knowledge production. And yet, of course, the whole book is about, as thank you, Hoda, for your comments, is really about this politics of knowledge production, by which since a century there are different layers of producing knowledge that are being incented, and this is continuing until today. So surely bringing the site of production at home, so to say, doesn't solve the issue, and that's what we're all discussing about. And pointing to the last note of Hanan Sabah, it's this privatization is not really affecting doctoral studies for the moment, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's so it is more like packaging knowledge that is ready to be spent on the labor market, rather than in pushing people to ask questions and to. So I'm not sure if this is, of course, in private universities abroad, it's a different matter altogether. But yes, and this maybe also answers another question that's been raised about the role of the present political situation. I mean, the whole point of the book, of course, the political situation is not to be ignored, but having an historical perspectives helps in trying to get out of the circumstances of the present and see matters in a larger perspective, by which in Egypt, as in many other countries, and some of them are also in Europe, or in non-English speaking European countries, there is a devaluation of knowledge being produced not in English, and this has been also part linked to what also David mentioned, this publication and the metrics associated with it, which is of course favoring English.
So Daniele, you were addressing the question, what's your perception of the impact of the present political situation in Egypt on doctoral studies? Yeah.
But I didn't mean to exhaust it, so if anyone has a reaction to that.
Okay. Another question, has employability after completion been taken into account in analyzing PhD students' position as knowledge producers? So is employability, not sure I understand the question.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, I'm not sure to understand it, but some chapters, also Ahmed, Ola, and Nafisa, point to the fact that at Egyptian public universities, some PhD students, maybe even more, the majority of them, are already faculty member when they enter the doctorate as a program, which means that the PhD is not unlikely in the global north moment in which a scholar is pushed to be particularly creative, to leave a mark, or to create a name for him or herself. And more, I mean, since they are already faculty members, they are not receiving a scholarship, so they need to either have full jobs elsewhere or to be teaching assistant at the faculty. The time for doing research is limited. And the main goal is, rather than pursuing any particularly interesting research project, is to rather get done on time to get the promotion that is actually needed. So this changes completely the meaning of the PhD. You know, in global North universities, I don't know if I'm right here, but I think, at least in my own experiences, there are no faculty members who are entering a PhD program. You become faculty member eventually, many years after completing your PhD, and the PhD is normally the first business card that you make for yourself, right? So I worked on this, and in Egypt, this seemed to be a rather different situation. And speaking with scholars from other countries that had also a socialist past, like Vietnam, for example, I was told that the situation is rather comparable, and so that you have already faculty members that enroll as PhD students as part of an internal promotion.
If I can add also to Daniele, based on the many interviews that I've conducted with the candidates, even those that are not intending to work at university or our PhD or our faculty, the PhD is not really about producing knowledge. It's about social mobility. They just want to advance their career. They want to advance their position in society. It's not really about producing anything. It's not about research. It's really a means to an end to have a better quality of living. And this, I think, also differs because, as Daniele says, there are no scholarships given on merit or performance or anything. It is really the intention of having a PhD in order to get a better job or get a better salary somewhere or have a better prestige in society. So I think this is also very determinant in our society.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I think on that note, we've come to the end of our discussion. Susan, did you want to say anything?
We actually have one final question that just came in. I don't know if the time would allow. If someone would like to reply to it quickly, it's from Dr. Hanan Sabai. It's how can publishing and open access begin to break or intervene in the politics of knowledge production? That's a completely different big topic. But Daniele or anyone would like to answer to that quickly before we wrap up?
As the whole set of questions around decolonization of knowledge production point to the fact that this is just the beginning of a conversation, and we will be all very glad to continue it. For myself, I can say that this link between the mobility of scholars and the kind of knowledge they produce is the project I'm currently pursuing. So yes, I keep working on this. And where people publish is also decisive in this regard. But David and Hoda wants to add.
Yeah, I mean, if I might just say something very quickly, there are, amongst discussions on how to decolonize knowledge. So there are 10 points. One of them is to assign students only open access material. Just wanted to say that. So this is for future ideas about publishing. So yes, definitely open access is definitely one of the strategies, I think, for decolonizing knowledge.
I would just add in, it's a contradictory situation such that some of the global publishers are getting even richer through massively expanding their open access journals. So it's not about open access, it's probably about how you organize that in a sustainable way and you fund it in a way that doesn't extract even more money from researchers desperate to publish in order to get promotion. And you think about building a library ecosystem and a national research culture that absolutely does what Hoda's calling for, which is begin to intervene and decolonize. But yes, these are great questions, and I think that the quality of these questions today have just shown how much people really want to think about the future of all these aspects in knowledge in the Egyptian context. So thank you.
Okay, I think this basically wraps up our conversation for tonight and our panel discussion. And maybe in the future we could hold much lengthier ones to answer all of the questions that we're receiving. It seems of a lot of interest for a lot of our attendees. I would like just to take a moment to thank everyone who's here, Daniele, for this book, for your bringing everyone together for tonight. Yes, Dr. Hoda Saad, Dr. Ola Kumbara, Dr. Ahmed Mansour, Dr. Hala Kamal, and Dr. David Mills. I also would like to thank my colleagues, Nadia Naqib, for the wonderful moderation she did for tonight's panel, my colleagues Ingrid and Shahdain, who has been working hard for months now getting this ready for everyone. And thank you all for joining us. And if you have more questions that you would like to send to our panelists, please do send them to auc.press@aucegypt.edu or through our Facebook page, and we will gladly send them to our panelists tonight if they would like to comment more. You can find the recording of tonight's event on our Facebook page, the American University in Cairo Press, and on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of the night or day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.